bottom, and then I'll add a couple things to that. This is the work session of the Board and the Finance Committee. The purpose of having a joint meeting is to ensure that the information shared.
Finance Committee there, I tried to tell them
the same information to the Board and Finance Committee in 2 separate presentations. The work sessions do not have any action items, but only.
I need them here, but.
Mary.
Okay. We will not have any action items tonight, but only discussions to understand the presentation. Receiving this information now allows the Board and the Finance Committee to review the presentation on their own time, excuse me, and come back ready to discuss at their respective subsequent meetings. There is no public comment at this time. Public comment can be your questions you'd like to do, raise your hand, no one just yelling out. We don't want to stop Joel, constantly like him to go through the presentation, so if you have anything you want to add or any questions, please wait till the appropriate time to do so. And at this time, I'll hand this over to Rick Asai, our Director and Treasurer.
Hi.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. Yeah, so I just want to emphasize again that the presentation tonight is a draft budget. The good thing about this draft budget, Joel and his team have worked hard to get things to balance. So we have a balanced budget. So any changes or alterations that we do later on in subsequent meetings, whether it's recommendations from finance or discussions at the board level, before the board adopts it, this is the starting point. Probably not a lot of room to squish and move things around, but it's very important tonight that we understand how the budget was developed and why some of the numbers changed the way they did. So as Keith said, we have this presentation tonight. We have the town hall on the 16th. Finance will meet on the 20th. The board will meet on the 14th and 28th. So mostly we just want to get any questions that we have really should be oriented about numbers that are in the budget, not about making recommendations or trying to make any suggestions for changes. So with that, I think we're ready to have Joel get started.
Joel, you're sharing your screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Spencer, we're getting a little echo. Is the recording audio on?
Is the recording audio?
Yeah, I'm just hearing that echo. You hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it might be the TV. There we go.
Can you turn that? Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, so the budget, so we have cards out tonight and tomorrow night for the budget. Usually, well, we'll do the operation budget one night and the capital budget the next night. But I think we can easily get through this whole thing in just this one night. So I can easily get through the operations and the capital budget pretty much, I think, in good time. And so for anyone watching, the budget presentation has been posted online. So if you go to the AGM button on the main Sun Valley website, you'll see a link there to the 2026 operating budget, 2026 budget presentation. Also, if you go to the board website and look up the agenda, you'll see an addendum there that will have the exact same budget document there as well. And with that, we'll just go ahead and I'll just go right through the 2026 operating budget. We have all the department managers present as well. For any questions, that'll be to them once we get to the end. And probably, maybe the easiest thing we'll do is I'll just go ahead and go through if it's okay with it. And then we can do questions. Does that sound okay to you? Or
Yeah, maybe questions right after you go through the operations. And
sure, we can do that. Yeah.
We'll try to be quick with it.
Yeah.
So will that be pretty much in order of what we have here?
Yes, it will. It will be exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So this starts off with the budgeting process. It basically, put it in a nutshell, it's a cumulative effort between the department managers, the general manager, myself, and I'll get input also from, especially I work the closest in terms of the board members with Rick, the treasurer as well. And then this is being presented to both the joint committee, the finance committee, and the board. And then, as Rick pointed out, then at the next finance committee meeting, that'll be their perfect opportunity to voice any concerns or questions they have about the budget as well, versus subsequent board meetings after this as well. And then obviously the finance committee will give their recommendations, and then the board meeting later on, and it sounds like later on in August or possibly early September, then the board will vote on adopting the budget. And then there will be a town hall on not this Saturday, but next Saturday. Okay, so the bottom line for the budget in terms of like, what will the dues be, the proposed budget right now for 2026? So the dues will go up 7%, actually it's technically just a hair under 7% since I rounded down to the nearest cent. By the way, Linda's her table rate looks like that. If you want to straighten out your table, it looks like that.
Mine would be larger than fall.
Collapsing, yeah. Thank you. So now what that means, like, as I said, 7% dues increase, so let's just go to the next slide here. I'll come back here in just a second. So this is what this means, 7%. So as you can see, what you're paying right now in dues for a developed lot is $156.28. Undeveloped lot, it's $148.41 total. So the new dues rate will go up to $167.21 for a developed lot, undeveloped lot, $158.79. And as you can see, this, and which of course I'll get into here very momentarily, the entire dues increase for this year, meaning for 2026 budget year, is being allocated solely to operations, and then I'll get into why that will be the case. This previous slide right here, as anyone can see, this is just showing you a breakdown of how those dues are allocated, which the other slide said, but it's just telling you 8814 for developed lot, operating fund, capital repair and replacement reserve fund 3863. That's basically all their fixed assets with the exception of roads. You can think about it like that, and mailboxes. Mailboxes 71 cents, roads reserve $39.73. This is per month. Now the capital allocation of these amounts for capital, it does not matter whether it's a developed lot or undeveloped lot, it's the same. It's the operating portion of it that's for an undeveloped lot is less than an operating, for a developed lot. Okay, so this is showing you an annual revenue worksheet. So I'll go to the next slide where it shows you the whole table. But basically what this is saying, exactly what the verbiage is saying here to the left of this slide is just talking about how basically it's increased 15.9% from 2020 to 2026, meaning if you just look at a straight dollar amount increase. So in 2020, the dues were $144.31. 2026 proposed to be $167.21. If you just do a straight, how much does that go up by a percentage basis? That's 15.9 cents. Or 15.9%, sorry. But like in terms of when you think about the capital budget, how we have that 4% inflation rate of every single year. So if we do something in 2026, if it costs $100 to do in 2026, and then if we're going to delay it to 2027 and we're doing a 4% inflation now, we'll say it'll cost $104. And then if we push it to 2028, that $104 gets another 4%, so on and so forth. So if you want to think about it in terms of what the second little paragraph is saying, it's basically if you started in the budget year of 2021, so if we're in 2020 and then we're talking about the budget year 2021, and at that point if we said we're going to increase dues 2.485% for 2021, if we held to that exact same increase amount, did that each and every year over 6 years, we would arrive at what is being proposed for 2026, $167.21. So if you want to think about it kind of like how the capital 10-year plan does it, the inflation rate, escalation rate, then the rate would be 2.485%. It's technically a little less than that, but That's basically what that's saying. It will have increased on average 2.485% for the last 6 years, if you started with the budget year of 2021. What I mean by that is if you take, in 2020, you take the $144.31 dues, and then in 2021, you increase that by 2.485%, now you're at $147.90. And then you do that again in 2020, now the $147.90 goes to $151.58. Then in 2023, you do that again, and a static 2.45% now goes to $155.35. So on and so forth. When you get to budget year 2026, you're at the $167.21. So you can think about it like that. Versus this other little paragraph below this, talks about the general inflation rate between 2020 and 2025. It affects general inflation. It increased a total of 24%, which approximates to over 4% per year. So the dues increase, if we stuck to a similar dues increase, was exactly the same from 2020 through 2026, that would have been less than the general inflation rate. Yes. Now, the second slide is so this is breaking down. This is just an expansion of that table that was on the first page. So this is showing you how the dues, basically the breakdown of the dues over ever since 2020. You can see right here on this line, well, basically that line right there, 144.31 for 2020, then 144.31 for 2021. Same amount for 2022. 2023 was a weird year when the direct special assessment expired at the end of May. So it was 144.31 at the end of May 2023. Then it dropped down to $141.81 at the end of, for the last 7 months of 2023. And then that is the annual total would have been $142.85 per month over those 12 months. Then in 2024, it went to $146.06. 2025 is kind of the first year where we're really seeing kind of some appreciable dues increase. So it went to this year, $156.28. And then right there in 2026, $167.21. And then all these rows up above just show you the different components of the breakdown. And so this is figured on right now. So we have 3,116 billable lots. 2,777 are developed lots. 339 are undeveloped lots. And then all of these feed into the new dues rate to give you this total of $3,261,000. And then we're doing, just like last year and the years before, we're going ahead and calculate this on a 95% collection rate, which means total dues, $3,098,404. And then these last columns or these last rows in here show you the capital breakdowns of the total capital amounts. This bold line after that is after the 95% collection rate, so on and so forth. And then this total at the bottom, $5,907,160, that's the total amount of all dues coming in. So operating dues, capital dues. And like I said before, these amounts, like if you notice, well, since the capital dues aren't changing, the allocation, then why do these dollar amounts change? Because the number of billable lots has changed. So in 2025, it's 3,120 billable lots for budget year 2025. Now it's 3,116. The reason why that changes is because of lot consolidations and so on and so forth. And that's why that number will change from year to year. And obviously when developed lots undeveloped get consolidated into developed lots, then effectively we're losing out on undeveloped dues revenue at that point. Vacant lots that become developed, that's the opposite. We're actually gaining money since the dues are higher on a developed lot versus a vacant lot. Okay. Now, so this page is presented every single year. Basically what it's just showing you is this is showing you 2025 through 2035. It's mirroring that since we do the capital plan, it's a 10-year capital plan that we show you. So basically what this is saying is 2025, the dues are $156.28. 2026 is projected to be $167.21. Then if we hold all of that steady, since we don't know exactly, we don't know what dues will be in 2027 and so on and so forth, then we just assume the dues will stay flat and the capital plan shows you that the dues can stay flat. Like the capital dues will not fall negative. I mean, the reserve balances. Of course, we'll get into the capital plan here in momentarily. This next slide is a pie chart. This is on last year's document and so on and so forth, but it's just showing you a breakdown of the 2026 draft budget net income sources. This light blue, the right slice of this pie, the biggest slice, half of it, operations, regular dues. If we just go around to the left or clockwise around the slide, then the dark blue is from the marina dues. Marina, this is net income from marina, 227,676. So it's basically telling you that it's supplementing dues by 641. So if we did not have the marina net income, then operating dues would have to go up by $6.41. Golf, it's operating net income. This is golf, turf, carry combined, golf enterprise. So operating net income for that is $32,582. So they're supplementing dues by 92 cents. So if golf wasn't here for operations, then the operating dues would have to go up 92 cents, essentially. That's what those two bottom slices are saying. And then you see continuing clockwise, SURF, Capital Repair and Replacement Fund, that's showing you the 1.372 million. And if you went back to that dues, that worksheet that I showed you before, you'd see that. So it's just saying it's contributing 22% of all dues revenue coming in. And then the yellow slice, which is the roads one, same thing, 1.4 million, 23%. And then this very top, the tiny one, dark blue, is the mailbox fund. And obviously we expect that to be the smallest one since we only take in 71 cents per month per line. Okay, so now we're moving into the meat of the operations budget portion of this presentation. So you can see this is just a quick summary showing you 2025 as opposed to, and then the 2026 column right next to it, increase, decrease, and percent change. This is showing this to you on a net income basis, so to speak. So the top line, common cost, property taxes, views, and legal. Down here is the operations portion, which is in common cost, but it's split out in terms of for this presentation. And then all the other departments, the percentage changes that you can see, operations, accounting, facilities, maintenance, so on and so forth. Parts is at 0. This little footnote down here says why, because in beginning in budget year 2024, we're accounting for all parks, expenses, and maintenance. So parks and maintenance basically got consolidated in effect for budgeting purposes. Now, this note up here explains that there are no budgeted increases in total payroll FTEs in 2026. We have a situation where, like now that we have a full-time rec manager with Kyle. Kyle was previously budgeted for in the admin department, so he switched to the rec department. So you'll see a difference in payroll between rec and admin, but that's just because of a move, a lateral move from one department to another. But the overall budgeted FTEs are staying precisely the same in 2026 as they were in 2025 in this budget year. And then this next slide basically is showing you this is only talking about operation dues, what your operation dues pays for, and that's just showing you basically it's the that proposed for operations $88.14 component of that total $167.21 monthly dues. So that this is focusing on the operations portion of the $88.14 of basically there's the pie breakdown of where it goes, what it's paying for, such as property taxes and views if we go clockwise around, this peach color, operations, then accounting, then facilities, maintenance, security, ACC. That has one of the largest, actually in terms of a line item, it has the largest increase in there, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then recreations, community center, and then the smallest slice of pools. But you can see basically each one of these, like the property taxes, views, dues, $11, so I'm looking at this part, $11.62 of your operating dues of $88.14 per month. Out of that $88.14, $11.62 goes to property taxes, fees, insurance, and legal monthly. And same thing, so on and so forth, around that pie chart. That's what that's telling you. Okay, so now in terms of like, this is now getting completely into the operating budget, but this is talking about how this operating budget was created basically to address the major areas of concern that we know for a fact will go up in terms of costs in 2026. And just, that'll be payroll expense, property and casualty insurance, fuel and utilities, and specifically hazardous tree removal and forest management. Those have all been targeted for 2026. And that's why the decision was made to go ahead and allocate the 7% increase to operations. The second bullet point is talking about the 5-year recreation special assessment that I already talked about that ended in May of 2023. And the 2025, there are no additional use fees for that amenity for Parks and Rec. And in 2026, there are no planned increase for members for that amenity as well, for those amenities. And also, last year was on the budget slide talking about the increase in insurance costs, and so I added it on here again because it was material we talked about. So the June 2025 renewal of the insurance, so we saw an increase of $35,804 on our insurance, extra that we had to pay in June of 2025 versus June of 2024. So that was an increase of 19.5%. And this last bullet point is addressing what I've already covered. The funds collected will go to operations. Okay, so this is an important slide. This talks about total hazardous tree removal costs. Obviously, the November 2024 storm, which I doubt anyone can forget about, ever. But this chart is showing you, with that storm in mind, this chart is showing you total hazardous tree removal costs over the year, all the way back to 2014. And when I say total costs, I mean all costs. So like, for example, in some years, some costs were in operations and hazardous tree removal. Some of those costs were approved to come out of UDR. And so this chart here combines all of the costs, regardless of what source it came from, just to give a clear picture of how much these costs were. And as you can see, 2014 through 2019, or even 2020, quite frankly, it was fairly flat. You can see in 2020, it really took off. So in 2021, the total cost, $140,158. 2022, it then went to $203,283. 2023 was $144,438. 2024, as you can see, that was that huge spike because the November storm really caused that. So it's real close to $460,000 for 2024. And out of that $460,000, about $114,000 of that, I'm rounding these numbers, is attributable to operations, so basically normal hazardous tree. $55,000 of that was UDR, so additional spending that was requested out of UDR for hazardous trees. And then for these common area, for that November storm, the billings that we got in 2024 related to 2024, $64,113 for surf, meaning common area land trees. And for roads, $227,000, those are rounded numbers. So obviously that was a lot of money. And so this chart here shows you the last data point here is through July of 2025. So you can see through July 2025, we're back up to about close to 181,000. 88,237 of that was still related to the November storm that the billings occurred in 2025. They were deemed, these trees were caused because of that storm event. So, and then the board in June, I believe it was early June, so it was approved to spend another $100,000 out of UDR for hazardous trees. And then through July, and I started moving those costs away from operations to UDR in June when that was approved. The UDR was approved for that. So through July, we've already spent $53,574 of that $100,000. So obviously that's a lot of money. So now through June of 2025, like I said, we're already at we're close to $181,000 for for hazardous tree removal. So we've already eclipsed 2023, year-end 2023, and we're not far away from 2022. So specifically in this budget, as this says, so in terms of all total budgeted increases in expenses, 35% of all budgeted increases in expenses have been allocated to additional hazardous tree removal costs. And we've renamed now the title of the GL to hazardous tree removal / forest management to take care of both hazardous tree removal and forest management type concerns. So that budgeted line was $100,000 in 2025, and now that has been pushed up to $300,000 for 2026 to help address these concerns. And of course now, we can just get right into we'll just quickly go through the operating budget. And we'll skip through this quickly. We won't dwell on every single line because we'll only hit on the things that have a material change that are moving. So as you can see, we start out with common costs. You can see right off the bat, probably one of the most important line items. Talked about this. This is the dues and assessment income. You can see that it's going from 2.7 million in 2025 to almost 1 million in 2026. And that's because the total 7% increase in dues is allocated specifically to operations. And this is comparing, so of course, as I said, just in case someone's wondering, I said 7% dues increase in total dues. This says budget change it's over 14%. And that's because it's only looking at the 2025 budget versus the 2026 budget, that's why. If the composition of the billable lots had stayed exactly the same, and if that 7% dues increase were allocated evenly between SURF, roads, mailboxes, operations, then you would see that just changing by 7%, but that's why. Hopefully that makes it more clear. Okay. Okay, so insurance premiums. Actually, let me back up here. Okay, so legal costs, there are really only a couple items where we bump this up. Legal costs, obviously, just looking at past at our legal expenditures, that definitely warrants an increase in budgeted expenditures. Of course, we from year to year, obviously we're not aiming to spend a lot on legal. We don't want to spend we're not looking to take on legal services. We try to cut that down as much as possible, but we'll go ahead and budget $100,000 for 2026 to pull that a little more in line with past years' type expenditures. But this is definitely one line item. Same with hazardous trees. Obviously, we don't set out to spend as much with that as possible. Insurance, this is the other real kind of material line item. You can see it's going from $206,416 in 2025 to close to $51,000. That's because I built in an additional 15% increase in insurance for 2026. And this is exactly how I'm just going to do this, by going through these departments. I'm just going to hit on the material line items. And of course, like I've said before, this is the accounting department. We don't have to cover this since we know this one's perfect. So, this will set the stage actually for the other departments in terms of material line items. So basically for accounting, the real one is payroll and benefits. And what I'm going to say about payroll and benefits applies to every single department. So payroll and benefits, the increase in payroll and benefits complies exactly with what the collective bargaining agreement says. So for the 2026 enactment, so the CBA is a 3-year CBA. 2026 will be our third from last year of this current CBA that we're on now. Then it gets renegotiated again next year for 2027. But so to go from 2025 to 2026, just like how we went from 2024 to 2025, the CBA says 3%. That's specifically what it says. And it's a good thing we're starting out with accounting, because the good thing with accounting is we're the one and only department where the composition of people have not changed. So it's like we're the same people, And so how the budget is built is I look at exactly what people are getting paid right now and then bump them up 3%. Because obviously when you get into the unionized positions, you have seniority levels and stuff like this. So as people, if a person with a higher seniority left and then someone showed up, they're gonna have a lower pay rate coming in, the starting pay, and that's all dictated to by the CBA. So that's why some departments, you'll see it less than 3%. And it's because of those reasons, because people are coming and going. But in accounting, no one is left. So that's why you see this nice clean 3% increase between 2025 and 2026 budget. This line item, the payroll, medical benefits, another thing that the CBA says too. So what it said for year 2024 and 2025 is that Sun Valley will cover medical benefits, period, for the staff. And, so those two prior budget years, I built in a 10.6 increase to the budget, and that turned out just fine, actually. But now what the CBA says for 2026 is it says for the last year of the CBA that we have to pay up to an increase of 10% on what the medical costs are in 2025. So this one cannot change in a sense. So these medical costs will stay, cannot go over this, that's the other thing. This last line item for payroll benefits, the 401k, so the CBA says we'll pay up to 1.5% of an individual salary for the contributions. I build in half of that amount, 0.75%, and that has worked out just fine. So we're leaving it at that rate. Really, in terms of I have obviously built in increases to audit and tax services. Going back and looking at our billings for both, what goes into this line item will be both the audit, the reserve study, and the tax return fees. So this is just going back and looking at those past billings and increasing them by what they have been increasing over the years. And next year in 2026, this year we had a level 2 reserve study, next year will be a level 3 again. So the cost will be less in terms of a full level. That's why you don't see a huge increase from 49,000, 50,500. It's because of the fact that it's a level 2 next year, level 3, which will be cheaper. Okay, so now going into the facilities department, these total lease incomes right here, these are all, quite frankly, these are exact numbers. So lease income from the restaurant is exactly what they've been paying, if the situation remains as is, that's exactly what it'll be next year. Same thing for the Barn 8. This goes exactly according to their lease agreement and what they'll be paying in 2026. And this is the Christ the King Church lease and the library lease, last one of these leases, the exact same thing. This goes according to the lease document. Salaries we have already covered, so it's the same drill for salaries and facilities as it was for accounting. We have one individual in facilities. And since we have one individual, that also makes it nice and clean. It's going up 3%. It'll mathematically come out just like that. And that's basically really the only real material change on that. Actually, let me go back to utilities, because let's talk about this. So utilities, this is going to be, just like the salaries, this will be the same thing with every department. So what I did for utilities is I took the entire year of 2024 and bumped that up precisely by 10%. And the same thing happened for fuel as well, and obviously communication services and utilities. So same thing for that. So basically, all utilities, fuel, the full 2024 year data, and we'll just increase that by 10%. Okay, going on to golf management. So the first category of golf management is all the revenues, and Kevin. So what Kevin has provided, and another thing too. So all these budgets that we're going over. So the managers, all the department managers have supplied all their input for the budget, and then basically almost all the input has been look great. So it's been incorporated into the budget. Very few times where I thought, oh, I'm gonna overwrite that or change it. Or with golf income, so basically Kevin has built in a 3% increase off of the 2024 actuals. And looking back over the years, that I believe is a good kind of realistic conservative number for an increase to build in. Looking in terms of how much the golf revenue has been coming in 2025, comparing that to the 2024 golf revenue amounts and budgeted amounts, that 3% is, I think, a good number to go with. The rest of these numbers in terms of for golf will be, there are a couple line items, just like bank charges and fees, things like that, where we definitely built in a little increase to align it with, in reality, what has been coming in, like the end of 2024. And by the way, this report includes a column for 2021 actuals, and 2022 actuals, 2023 actuals, 2024 actuals. It's obviously all full year to date. And then this last column here, before it gets into the budget, numbers are made through year to date actuals. Salaries is going to be exactly what I said with the other departments. This is where you can start to see, especially getting into a department where people can come and go in different seniorities and so on and so forth. This is where you can start to see a difference moving away from the 3%. And also, Kevin is also the one department where there's an individual who we have to follow the state laws in terms of salary exempt. So there's a minimum amount that we have to, an individual has to be paid to be an exempt worker. And in 2026, I believe that's 2.25 times minimum wage is what that's going up to. Utilities, exact same drill with this, 10% fuel and so on and so forth, same thing. And that, in a sense, covers, in terms of like I said, there's golf and there's turf. We'll get into turf here momentarily. Okay, the rec department, this is going to be the one department, and I already talked about this. So you'll definitely see an increase here in total payrolls and benefits. And total payrolls and benefits going up by close to 55%. Now, this is because exactly what I said before. Kyle moved from the full-time rec manager. Kyle was in the admin department. He was the chief of staff and admin. So his salary was always here. It was just an admin. So now he's moved to the rec department in 2025. And so now 2026, now his salary will be properly budgeted for in the rec department. And that's what's causing an increase. And we'll also have one individual in the admin office, one of the admin individuals who their salary is also budgeted to all of rec. And that's because the Welcome Center has been thought of and treated as, and we did this also in the 2025 budget and back in even into, I believe, 2024, possibly. Maybe we started with the 2025 budget. But the Welcome Center is viewed as a one-stop place to go to for people to come, so they could go there for all their needs, including rec department type, signing up for this or that or whatever. But even if we did move that FTE from, someone's like, I'd rather that FTE be accounted for in admin versus rec. Overall, as an organization, it doesn't matter whether they're an admin or they're in rec. So that's why it's in terms of back on that slide towards the beginning, total FTEs have not changed whatsoever. It's just the composition has changed just a little in terms of where a couple of people are, especially where the rec manager is allocated. Utilities, same thing. They do the exact same thing as I talked about before. And so what's largely driving this increase between 2025 budget, you can see total net income of $260,000 versus $369,358. It's just, for the most part, reallocation of FTEs, where it's being budgeted. Now getting into the maintenance department, the exact same thing with salaries as I talked about. We also repeated this. So left it $15,000 for a weather response payroll to cover a couple of good snow events. You can see so far through 2025, we've used about 8,900 of that. Obviously, when the fall season comes around again, we will probably use more of that before 2025 finishes that out. So we went ahead and budgeted for that as well. There's another line item here for some future weather, for weather response as well. And this is basically for the raw materials and stuff like that. Snow melt and all that sort of stuff. For the roads. Okay, we also repeated right here, other professional services, 25,000. We repeated that again in 2026, 25,000. This is for contracted gutter cleanings, is what that's for, in case someone was wondering. For the most part, all of the other numbers on maintenance have remained fairly the same, just with some minor differences here and there. Some have been increased, some have been decreased. This is all input from Mike Brock. Skipping ahead to the marina department, okay, so you can see that that the total marina revenues, so we have 5.45% increase. So basically the 2026 budget right here, the revenue numbers, has been built a little kind of largely on the 2024 numbers. And what this is doing, this is kind of taking into account a couple options, like to look at this further to see if a change in composition in terms of the slips, could basically, as you can see, the marina, the wet-dry combo remained fairly similar. In May of 2025, 133,748. We have 131,343 in 2024. So the composition of these slips could change a little to maybe mirror a little more of 2024. We still have the rest of the year to go in terms of dry slips and so forth, or possibly, as Rick and I talked about, either that or possibly a fee increase, but it leaves some options in terms of what to do in terms of like with the revenue. But either way, we're only talking a difference of approximately 12,000. So one way or the other, it's not a huge like defining factor in the budget. And the rest of Marina is just all anticipated type increases. Most of these line items, have been analyzed and they look fine to keep assets. Okay, now we're into the admin budget. There aren't a lot of increases with the admin budget, as you can tell, even total administrative expenses in general. It's really only got about $7,000 or so. Like I said, salaries, this one will change. This one, the reason why there's a decrease is the exact opposite reason of why rec has an increase. And it's just because rec manager Kyle was budgeted for in this department in 2025, actually, so it's in the 2025 budget. But now it's been corrected, well, not corrected, it's just been reallocated because of now the reality of the fact that he is now the rec manager. And all of that, basically that change took place after the 2025 budget was finalized. But in 2026, we'll now realign it for reality. And communication services right here, same thing, is 10% of actual billings from 2024. Parks is an easy one, because starting in 2024, we've been budgeting for this. All of parks expenses have been budgeted in, just commingled with the maintenance expenses. It's going to continue to show up on this report, though, until we get beyond 2024, or especially, it's showing up in the report because of the past data, where we have numbers for. So if I remove parks from this report, it will remove it from the bottom line totals. And bottom line, obviously, revenues and expenditures. Okay, main and pool income. Basically just the thing here, just adjusting certain things like like main pool income, but it's really not that big of an increase. The pool management line item here where we pay Cisco, it's just increased from 55,000 to 60,000. And that's just, basically this is just all budgeted off of Cisco's contract itself and also billing in some increases for additional pool services over and on top of what they said. Okay, so now we're into the department that definitely has the material line item change. Hazardous tree removal services, you can see right here. So it's going up 200%, and we already talked about this 2025 budget, 100,000. 2026 budget is now 300,000. So that's the biggest line item increase, and so that's 35% of all budgeted increases in operating expenses is right there. And that's, just as I talked about previously, that is solely to address basically the annual increase in hazardous tree removal. And also, it's the idea, if Michael wanted to talk more about this, it's the idea to also use this as forest management. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, or forest health, of course. Yeah, so alongside the bomb cyclone hazard tree issue, which was unexpected, moving forward, there's a recommendation to forest health, starting to whittle away at the firewise issues. Obviously, Sun Valley's overgrown, and we'll be bringing a couple proposals to the board to look at from a company called Burnbot, where we can show examples of what firewising looks like and try to get buy-in from owners as well, who I discussed this with Keith. This company also works with a couple of very large-scale HOAs down in Lake Tahoe, Dahmer. They're almost 20,000 homes. And they have embarked upon a firewise program in a big way, even bigger than Suncadia does. Suncadia at 500,000 a year. But of course, these big wildfires are the driving factor. So forest health and the hazard tree budget at 300,000, the hope is that we won't have another bomb cyclone. And if we don't spend all of that, then of course it goes to UDR. But if we do have another situation like that, we are, I still think that 300,000 is a step in the right direction though. But I like the idea of changing the title of the account to Forest Health, because you may recall that it was over the last 10 years, the bark beetle and yip and several of the other diseases that can affect conifers. And thank God we haven't had that to a great extent here lately. But if we end up having common area trees that are affected by forest health issues, the number of trees that will be responsible for dealing with are going to go up. So we're hoping no wildfires, we're hoping no bomb cyclone, but just like an insurance policy, it's not worth a darn until you need it. And so that's my explanation on forest health. And Mike, do you want to make any comments? You and your team and Rawls have been dealing with.
No, I agree. I think that it's better to be prepared than not, as we all saw with the bomb cyclone. And we hope it doesn't happen again, but if it does, we'll be more prepared. If we have the budget right there, move quickly.
As Joel's chart showed, from the year 2020 on up, something's changing, obviously, right? The forest health is either declining, trees are getting older, they're getting bigger. There's a lot of factors for why that number's gone up. Or it may have been, as Mike, anecdotally said, it looks like in the past that there wasn't a lot done about it, right? They were identified, but then they said, well, hopefully the tree won't fall down. And so.
Yeah, in the last few years, we've been a lot more proactive as those requests come in.
Yep. So So, yeah, Joel, thanks for letting me interlude there a little bit.
Sure, yeah. And actually, I mean, just if you want to know, like in terms of additional UDR spending that we've done for this hazardous tree removal, I mean, so in 2018, additional 37,392, 2019 was just 8,800, but in 2021, it was 40,000, so this is over and beyond what we spent on operations. This was request to UDR. So 2021, 40,000, 2022, so over 140,000, 2024, 55,000, and we know in 2025 that we asked for an additional 100,000. And we spent already, that was requested in June, and here we are at the end of July, we've spent 54,000 on that. So, yeah.
It's not slowing down.
Another thing too, I'll point out here, the new home construction, this has been increased, 2025 budget 100,000, 2026 is 185,000, and that's just, new home construction fees have gone up, double. And actually, this line item, new home construction, this line item really helped us in 2024. That helped to bail us out of all those all those hazardous tree removal costs. And it helped to, any money that was spent out of capital was restored, back to capital as though it didn't happen for those trees. Okay, now here's where you'll see the professionals, our security services, so it's going at 3%, is exactly according to the contract that they gave us. And it's going from 300,000 to 309,000. Obviously, it's a big line, but of course we know this will be 309,000 for 2026 budget. All right, this one ACC consultant right here. So we have this in at 50,000. This is the ACC consultant that does new home inspections and so on and so forth. Now we do have Alan, which is new to the department for this, but there is still a great need for the ACC consultant. And we have 50,000 built into this. Let's just say it's a year to where it becomes more than that. If it becomes more than that, we probably have a lot of new home builds, so therefore we will be taking revenue new home. We'll take more revenue into this line item, new home construction. So when one goes up, we expect the other one to possibly go up as well. So I mean, if it did go up, it's not just hanging out there by itself. We would expect the new home construction fees to go up along with it. Turf Care, the last department of operations right here. It's the same with golf. It's all these budget numbers, most of them are supplied by Greg, and they all are good numbers as compared to especially the 2024 actuals. The salaries amount, now here's a perfect example where this one's less than 3%. It's the same thing, it's just as people come and go in terms of seniority, so on and so forth. This is built off of the exact people in the positions, the pay rates, and what they'll be in 2025 as according to the CBA. Maybe really only like equipment repair and maintenance, this going from 48,000, 60,000 is just based off of anticipated need for repair and maintenance of equipment. And these, the final pages of this budget document, the good thing about this budget document, if you're curious, how much would a certain GL, what would that be in total for the entire organization? This all department summary will tell you that. So in terms of, so payroll and benefits, here's a good one, in terms of what will be the total amount for all payroll? Well, here it is right here in the all department summary. You can see go from 2.66 million to 2.8 million. And the last page of this, you can see total all department summary expenses is going from 4.7 million to 5.3 million. And that's where I said 200,000 of that, approximately close to 35%. That is the additional expenditures budgeted for hazardous tree removal. And then we have revenues with the exact same amount, $5,295,101, and that's where we arrive at a total budget net income of $0. Now, I would say in terms of, for all the highlights of the operating budget, that pretty much covers them.
Yeah, thank you, Joel. Do you have any questions at this time from anyone? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to,
Should we wait till tomorrow for the?
no, go for it. Want to take a quick break in between, a couple minutes?
Sure.
I know, I do, but.
Yeah, no.
You're already out the door.
You did.
Yeah, we're making great time.
Doing very well. Yeah, just for a couple minutes.
Yeah, let's get a stretch.
You can stretch.
So if we get through all of this, Keith, will we be having a meeting still tomorrow?
No, sir.
No, we don't.
Thank you.
I did this just for you.
There's a number of people that want to go see Superman tomorrow.
We Alt Q.
haven't seen any comments.
All right, we're
That was
good.
the first thing that crossed my mind. God, this happened fast.
I think we back in session at 8:04. By the way, we timed out at 8. Back at 8:04. Okay, Joel?
Okay, so now we finished with the operating budget, now we'll just jump right into the capital budget. Obviously, the capital budget is over 10 years. Now we're gonna go from 2026 through 2035. What's in this presentation is the next couple pages are, and of course you can review this whenever you want to now, but this is every monthly for the finance statements, I put out a SERV project, a capital report for SERV roads and UDR. The next 2 pages here, SERV and roads, and this is through July of 2025. So this sweeps in every single open project that we have. Now for the 2024, all the books have been closed in 2024, which means any project that is on these sheets was open in 2025. So anything that was open in 2024 and that has been closed out, fixed assets, is no longer on this report anymore. So you are solely looking at only the projects open in 2025. Some of these are obviously, we know they're closed out by this point, like sand trap, rake, and aerator, turf trailer, and so on and so forth. But these projects were open, in January 2025 or later.
Joel, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
You're saying these are projects that are open in 2025?
Yeah.
Being a 2026 budget, are you saying that those are open projects that will carry over into 2026? Is that why we're considering them right now?
From a budgeting standpoint, all of this stuff that's on here is already counted into the budget. It's an obligated expenditure.
For 2026?
So, yeah.
Yeah, meaning like.
The short answer is yes.
Okay,
Of course, I was thinking about it from the accounting standpoint of like closing out books and stuff, but I think you were just only talking about the budget.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
thank you, appreciate it. Sorry.
Oh, no. So the good thing about this, like you said, now you're seeing through July, that everything approved. Which means that's everything approved so far to date. So the board has not approved anything else at this point that's not on these sheets. Switch back to this. Okay, so the biggest thing really to talk about is the SERV capital planning. So like I said before, this is showing you everything through 2024 here. And normally I would hide these columns like 2023, 2024, I'd probably leave 2025 open, but I let them open. Linda likes looking back at this, and they're actually handy to look back on, because you can see so this is basically in 2023 and 2024, those projects got approved in those years for those amounts. So that's exactly what you're looking at. 2025 is a little different, because if it's been approved, it's there for certain, but it's also there if it's being planned on being approved as well. But all of that is taken into account for the starting balance in 2026. And the only exception where it's a little different is just on one project, and it's that Barn 8 remodel project. It's that 972209. Let's just go back here real quick. Okay, so here's the 972209 right here. So you can see that the board approved amount $824 and $824,530. So just keep that number in mind. So when you get down here, what you're gonna see here is you see the 173,352 and 15,747. That comes up to the spending. Actually, it's a little higher than what's on the project report because it's taking into account the Carlotti expenditures. So meaning if Carlotti bills us through everything that he said he would, that's what this is taking into account. So it's a little more conservative. But this note up here is telling you January 1, 2026, the beginning balance, this balance right here, includes 635,431 of unspent available funds from that project code 972209. So, because you've approved 824,530 to be spent, and you've only spent 173,352 for Barn 8 remodel, or you will with the Carlotti billings, 15,747 furnace replacements. That leaves you 635,431 left. You know, it's still obligated, but it hasn't been, checks haven't been cut on this stuff yet. And we know that it won't. So that 635,431 gets into this beginning balance for 2026 in a sense. And then that's going to feed into the real reason why I'm talking about this stuff is the Barn 8 numbers, especially through right there. So Kingworks in February gave numbers to the board, construction numbers, estimates. At that time, it was like 3.7 million, something or other. And so this is including all of those costs from Kingworks, but it's taken it a step further since those showed up in February 2020 of this year. This spreadsheet tacks on 4% to that, you know, assuming that work will be done in 2026, so it'll be more expensive, so we're gonna increase them all by 4%. And that's exactly what this spreadsheet is doing. It's using a 4% escalation rate, inflation rate, that's applied to each and every one of those years, exactly what the reserve study is doing. And so you can see, like, so all these costs right here for the barn come up to a little over 4 million, which also leads me to this next point. You'll see this line item right here, which is, so these are anticipated Barn 8 refurbishment loan proceeds coming into 2026 to pay for this project. So this is the most important thing to talk about for SERB planning right now is the fact that what is a part of the 2026 budget, the capital planning budget for SERB, is Barn 8. The Kingworks estimates that they gave to us to complete Barn 8 increased by 4%. And then, of course, I reached out to the bank for these figures. And so $4 million anticipated loan proceeds is built into this capital plan. Loan proceeds coming in for 2026 to pay for this barn. This line item down here, the first line item here, SERF loan repayment, that's budgeting in all the repayments for the current SERF loan right now. And then this second line, line 15, the line right below it, is building in the loan payments for that $4 million loan for the Barn 8 refurbishment. So the loan payments, this first year, 2026, the reason why it's less than these others in 2027 on is because the bank, the loan proposal, you know, talks about how the first 12 months will be the drop period, and then we'll only pay interest on that, on our draws. And then 2026, this is I even made it a little more conservative. This number is factoring in, we'll have a $4 million average loan balance for 8 months out of the year, which probably won't be the case, but that's what it's factoring in for interest. So basically, this SERB planning takes into account $4 million in loan proceeds coming in, and it's taking into account the additional, a new payment that we'll have to make on this loan. So all of this is taken into account. And then you can, like I said before, you can see all the spending. If we were to back off 4%, you'd see those amounts come out exactly to the Kingworks numbers that they gave us. And but the bottom line for this is, with SERB, is this situation does not, there is no special assessment for this situation. This is budgeting $4 million loan coming in for the Barn 8, and the current loan structure will handle it. There's no special assessment needed for this $4 million. That's the bottom line for this budget. And then the rest of the items that you see here under the 2026 column are just the additional projects that are planned. You can see, stuff like cart path repayments. Here's so this is the turf roof replacement. Remember on the last, I think the project motion came before the board approval, how they talk about, we don't need to do the roof, so we'll look at it year to year. So that's why that's just been moved out to 2026. We'll assume that it has to be done in 2026. Yes, another material thing, or another big thing to talk about. So the Marina Tennis Court resurfacing was originally slated to be done in 2034. That's where it was. And actually, the budget numbers were to pull this back into 2026 for both the Marina Tennis Courts and the Marina Tennis Court fence replacement. So that's a piece of good news for the support.
Yeah, the reserve specialist and Mike, and we looked at that, so.
And it's bad shape.
Yeah, it's in very bad shape, yeah.
Yeah, so before, like on the 2025 budget, if people were dismayed that it looks like can't do it until 2024, this one has been moved out to 2026. Okay, this is essentially, here's the spending, this is turf care type spending, just golf club carry-all, replacement, range picking units, and getting into here, lawnmowers replacement, and a mini excavator for 2026. And then some tractor replacement here for turf, like I said, lawnmowers. And machete color driver replacement, Dodge replacement. Those are basically the big expenditures. You can see 5.8 million total expenditures in 2026. 4 million of that, 4.1 million, I believe of that, is barn, including the plumbing repair for the barn. Now you can see, like, based off of this 10-year capital plan, the 1 year in 2030, it does drop down to around, like I said, this capital plan assumes no increase in dues all the way through 2035. Which probably won't be the case, for 10 years. I'm sure that's not going to happen. But
No increase for
capital.
Okay,
Yes, capital. No increase for capital served dues, like this is. So you can see in 2030, the reserve balance is $33,616, but that's after that $600,000 carryback, meaning the amount that we would not like to drop below. So actually this number right here, the cash balance drops to $633,616. That's how you could read that. And then after this, 600,000 is subtracted away, just the amount we don't want to fall below. Then we have the workable amount, 33,660. And then it starts to pick up a little again throughout 2035. But basically what this analysis is telling you, what this capital plan is telling you is the capital plan can be done with no additional dues increase to capital. But it requires that loan of $4 million for the barn remodel.
Question, how long is the 40-year, is the $4 million loan?
15 years. The first year is, like I said, the drop trade. The other 14 years would be the normal payments.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that other loan is, let me see here. That's scheduled to be finished in 2028, or I mean 2030.
2030.
Unless we kept the payments the same.
Well, so the reason is, since you said that, I'll go ahead and remind people the reason why. So you see it's $333,000 in 2025, 2026, 2027. Then in 2028, it drops down to $304,723, and in 2029 drops, in 2030 it drops to $132,540. the reason why it's done like that is because that SURF loan that we had before, in terms of when we bought the Welcome Center, so that SURF loan was absorbed into the new loan, so to speak. So we took down an additional 1 million spending, but it also included the original SURF loan. But that, so we have been paying over and beyond what we had to pay for this loan, and that's to simulate paying off that original SURF loan when it would have been paid off anyways, if we never took on the other loan. That's why. And then, as you can see, you can tell in 2028, I think it's halfway through 2028, whatever, that those extra payments come to an end, because at that point, we would have paid off the original SURF loan anyways.
So we could continue paying 333 and maybe
Yeah,
end it quicker.
we could, sure.
Just curious.
Yeah, and we could end this loan right now, we could end it quicker if we did that, yeah.
So a question, this budget doesn't include any additional funds going into the reserve account? So are we gonna stay,
Yes, so the capital dues amounts, how they are right now, will stay the same in 2026.
what's the percentage of the reserve account at this point?
The fully funded reserves?
Yeah.
Well, it's like, in terms of, and by the way, so that's good, kind of, I'll just quickly mention, so the reserve study, so the 2026 reserve study, because that's what we're doing right now. So the reserve studies are perfectly, so this capital plan that you're looking at, the reserve study is in sync exactly with this capital plan. The only little adjustment I need to make to the reserve study is to incorporate that $4 million loan proceeds. And so that'll give the reserve study analyst, that's why he wants to hold that in. I think it'll probably be from affecting the starting balance. That'll probably be mathematically the best way to do it. But even if we don't do that, because obviously we're going to, but even if we left that out of there, the fully funded reserve rate for SURF is sitting at about 22%.
And it's recommended that we be closer to 40%, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I
Supposed to be at 100%.
Yeah.
That'd be the ideal.
There's three schemes, right? Fully funded, there's baseline funding where you never let it go below zero, and you have money to do all the projects that you plan, as long as nothing unexpected comes up. And then there is threshold funding, where you can say, we don't want to let it drop below 10%, or we don't want to let it drop below 20%. But those are all business decisions for the board. There's only 3 states in the union that have required percentages, and we're not one of them.
All right, so it's about, I guess what I'm thinking then is it's how much risk are you willing to absorb?
And how well do you manage the projects that you have scheduled, and are you reserving correctly? Is the cost basis on each of these items correct, and the remaining useful life? And that's why we use reserve specialists and involve everybody. Plus, we have such a large data set that, if we were a small condo association with only 20 items and we goofed on 5 of them, well, you're way over budget.
Yeah.
And you have no reserve. But you again have that $600,000 threshold. That's kind of a cushion as well.
Well, you guys are much better versed at this than I. But it seems like these reserve specialists that we employ, they must have a tremendous amount of expertise in buildings and in roads and in marine construction. And boy, those guys must have a ton of expertise in these things that they could go in and say, yeah, I think that useful life looks correct to me, or yeah, I think that $5 million to rebuild all of your wet slips is way overstated. It must be, I'm really not trying to sound sarcastic, but I get a little nervous sometimes when I look at the reserve study and I look at some of the useful life and I think, well, I don't know, or when I see the replacement cost. So if I'm taking a right turn, I apologize.
Yeah, the way to be conservative is just to increase the dues and put lots of money in the reserve, and there's your fudge factor.
Yeah.
But it's cash management, Rob, and really, when you have such a large database as this, the lion's share of the money that you're spending is on culverts and roads.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that is, and that's something that is just pretty predictable. They know what a ton of asphalt costs, we know how much bridges cost. Your $1 million years coming up here are bridges.
Right.
You know, push barn 8 or barn 6 out of the equation. But it's culverts and bridges and road work where your big money's at.
yeah, absolutely. And what kind of my takeaway from this evening is, we have increases in operations that we have to be able to fund, and anything else is, we just have, like you said, we have to be very good with stewards of our money and our projects.
Yeah, if I could, so I agree with you, Rob. I would be a lot more comfortable with a higher percentage in reserves in respect to potential. On the flip side, any money you put into reserves cannot be transferred out and put into some other use. So you don't want to get all the way to 100%.
Right.
You're just sitting there, you don't have that flexibility. But I agree, it needs to go higher. In last year's reserve study, we don't have the results from this year's yet, they're finalizing that. But in last year's reserve study, the recommended amount to go to SERB and roads, we exceeded by $1 a month or something per payment, per monthly payment. So we were higher than what was recommended by the reserve specialists last year. It's the same, yeah, so we don't know where we're gonna be this year, but we should be pretty close.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
You know, to add to that, just real quick, that concept is, that's baseline funding, right? You know that you need this much for the reserve and you put $1 more in there. The concept of the baseline funding is that everything is not gonna fail at once. If it does, you got a huge insurance settlement, right, normally. But if everything were to fail at once, yeah, you don't have enough money. But to be able to handle the projects that you have scheduled over the next 30 years or 10 years in this realistic plan, you have sufficient monies in there. Is 20% as comfortable as 70% funded? Well, no, but your dues would be double where you are right now to be able to get to that level within 5 years. Because the reserve study expense side goes up 4% a year. That goes up by inflation. Your reserve contribution is not going up 4% a year.
Right.
And so at some point, you gotta true that up, or you see the 10% funding, 20% funding, and that's the business decision that you folks get paid the big bucks to make.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Joel, when are you gonna be ready to publish the 2026 reserve study?
Actually, the only holdup right now is just plugging in that $4 million loan proceeds and we can complete it.
Well, and what's the difference between, you know, the barn 6 line items and the barn 8 line items, right? So the barn 6 line items in here are pushed out.
Oh, yeah.
And so you would either, if you're gonna do barn 6 first and defer barn 8, you're gonna have to flip those expenditures around.
Yeah.
Because if you try to fund right now barn 6 and barn 8, whether barn 6 is 4 million or 8 million, you don't have that money right now for 26 and 27. You can't do them both at once, unless you make that an $8 million loan, or, you know, or a $10 million
And
loan.
then we have an assessment.
Correct, or special assessment.
So you guys need you need like 2 more weeks then, or do you need a month, or what do you need? How much more time do you think you need
For what?
for the releasing the 2026 reserve study then?
Oh, no. That could, quite frankly, it could literally be done between Chris and I in an afternoon.
Cool.
It sounds like there is maybe one more capital item that could come to the board that I'll put that in there as well.
Great.
Yeah, but the board could, if you wish to, the board could schedule the budget approval for August 28th. And that starts the 30-day clock going of when you have to go ahead and send out the notice of the annual meeting, but that's completely doable.
Remind us, Michael, what's on the budget calendar, is that, did we say we would do that on the 28th? Is that,
We're
No,
gonna, no, we're doing it in
it's-
September.
It's in September, but I'm
Gotcha.
saying you can move budget approval up if you want to. You don't want to go any later than that date on the budget calendar, because that starts the 30-day clock, and then you have the window of have to hold the AGM and approve the budget. You have 14 to 50-day window.
my little knot is, let's just stay with the budget calendar, because that's what we've told our election services and whatnot. So,
Yeah, for election, but if the board elects to approve the budget earlier, that, you can certainly do that.
And by the way, before I go to Rose real quick, so as Michael pointed out, and Rick, so the barn, that barn 6 is still on, so you're seeing it right now on the.
I'm not seeing it.
It's not in there.
It's on line 180 and 181.
Yes, nothing done.
Well,
Pushed out.
it is there, it's just, it was, and that's actually what I wanted to talk about. So these two items right here are intentionally pushed out to 2036 and 2037 because of the barn 8 updated numbers. Since the barn 8 numbers quadruple from 2025 to the 2026 budget, then those at this point have to be pushed out to 2036, 2037 with these two phases.
So currently, then you're saying you have nothing in there for barn 6, but I thought we did have money in there for barn 6.
No, the money's there, it's just since the replacement year has been changed now to 2036, that money is now out in the
It's future money.
2036.
It's
So it's
future
future
money.
spending in 2036.
oh,
We haven't printed it yet.
Again, to have
that's how you're talking.
to have those two projects in the capital
Right.
plan,
Yeah.
within a few years of each other, you've got to have more revenue at the top. Otherwise, you go negative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's what Joel did, because we have the firm figures for barn 8.
Yeah, so basically, at this point, since with the updated burning costs, with the current dues structure, dues are going up 7%, obviously that's 7% allocated operations. With the current dues structure, barn 8 and barn 6 cannot be done within the same 10-year window. It's basically what this is telling you, it has to be pushed out.
Without a bigger loan or a special
Without a
assessment.
special
That's
assessment, it can be done, it just
Sure.
requires an assessment.
Exactly.
It would require dues go up and over 7% or require a special assessment.
Well, and then, of course, we discussed this, a special assessment, there is no interest burden, but it's a one-time hit for all the members.
Oh, if it's
If it were a one-time
Yeah.
$2,500 special assessment to finance barn 6, you would have no interest to pay.
Right,
If you borrow that money over 15 years, you're paying $3 to $4 million and then on the loan. So that, again, the S word is never popular. I told Pete, we had a $50,000 one-time special assessment at Mammoth when all the boilers failed in a big condo complex. $50,000. But these were $5 million condominiums, so 50 grand to them was chump change.
Yeah, but it's not just change to the people out here.
No, I got you, but I'm just trying to tell you, Joel and I discussed this, and we have to present it in a form that makes sense and is publishable and is according to GAAP, right? So if you prefer, Joel could move the barn 8 stuff out and bring the barn 6 in, but that's an estimate. Because we don't have any firm numbers on barn 6. We do have the barn 8 retrofit numbers.
yeah, right.
And I guess with the second part of the capital plan, of course, this is the fast one, roads and drainage, because as we talked about last year, we have a roads and drainage 10-year plan from impact design. So 2026, budget year 2026 is a continuation of that roads and drainage plan, which we've made no changes to at all. So basically, if you look back on the 2025 budget and the 10-year capital plan and that 2025 budget is just continuing on from that point. We haven't made any changes to that at all. So as you can see, in 2025, you know, like 3 times A, Z bridge replacement, the stuff that basically you've all approved as well. All the culvert work, the last batch was done in 2024. There are no major culvert works beyond, in 2025, beyond just planning for culvert work, or, excuse me.
There's a big thing for one at Yearling Place or something that's a really big project.
Yeah, let me take that back. So we do have another tranche, so to speak, of culverts, not as many as in 2025, but we do have all of these highlighted ones in 2026.
Yeah.
Including that box replacement culvert 25.
Yeah, Yearling Place is 98, is like basically 100,000, 98,067.
Yeah. And then, of course, you do see the planned expenditures for on-call engineering, culvert inspection, 26. And you'll see as typical every year, for fast response, you'll see drainage issues, storm type response. You'll see the ditches and culverts here for 2026. And there's also the potholes as well. But you can see the amounts on, so here's the ending amount for, and this is after the same thing for SERV. Roads has a $500,000 recommended carryover, meaning they don't want to fall below $500,000. This is the actual cash balance of what is projected to be at the end of 2035 with all these planned expenditures, and assuming dues never go up, meaning the roads allocation of dues don't go up through 2035. And after that $500,000 is taken away, then there's the workable amount. You can think about it like that, the board workable amount for spending on roads at the end of each one of these years. And like I said, this is assuming dues coming in will come in at 95%. Through June of 2025, the collection rate was 97.25%, so we're actually even a little higher than we were at the end of June of 2024, where it was 97.1%, so the collection rate is doing really well in 2025. But these capital plans, both certain roads, assume that dues will just be 95% collection, that's it. And that there are no increases to both SERV for roads. Any increase that gets plugged into this thing, say like beginning of 2027 and so on, will change these numbers and have a cumulative effect. And also getting back to the hazardous tree removal, forest management, $300,000 line item, like Rick was talking about, flexibility with that. Let's just say we get, luck is on our side in 2026, we had no hazardous tree costs whatsoever. This would be fantastic. Now we have $300,000 as budget line item that we didn't spend, but we took the dues in for, so then we'll say everything else is on budget, so now we have a $300,000 surplus at the end of the year. Well, the board could put 150 of that into SERV and 150,000 of that into roads if they wanted to. And then do another due. You could start to increase the dues for certain roads in 2027 and so on. You could still stay like on a certain track. But I would say for the most part, like I said, the good thing with roads is this is just continuing on with the impact design road study plan in 2026 and on. So there are no changes to the road plan from the 2025 budget presentation last year.
It really starts to fall apart though after 2030.
Well, also keep in mind too, so since you
Just
said that.
saying.
Yes. So the road plan right here.
It's done again.
Yeah, here it is right here. So capital improvement road plan, so it'll be refreshed in 2028. And then again in 2033. So, and then these numbers will be updated.
Yeah, we've just got we've got like 3 big bridges.
Yeah.
27, 28, and 29. And
Right.
even if we take the 2 that are supposed to be done in 25, but they haven't started on yet.
Yeah.
They're ordered
I know,
and they're being
I
built.
can see the numbers there.
Yeah,
I have a question for you, Joel. Regarding, I thought there was gonna be all secondary roads are gonna be chipped and repaved and fixed and things like that. That was several years ago that plan went out. You recall anything like that? Well, the main roads, the primary roads are gonna be done, and we did do those. We chip sealed all those, and the secondary roads are supposed to be done in batches over like the next few years after that.
And
So all
I
of
take
them would have been redone at some point.
So that was probably before the 10-year plan, the latest one came out.
It would have been, yeah.
So I guess maybe they just changed the.
I think that Suki overlay was the last time we did anything to some
Unless
of the
Mike,
roads.
do you know anything?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it would have been, I think, prior, yeah.
That was before Mike got here.
Yeah.
yeah, the overlay, none of these culvert plans have any asphalt work other than after.
Just down
After the bridge, right. Yeah, the last overlays, Keith, and everything that I
No,
see, you know,
I see
work.
it. I see that. I'm saying prior to this, out, it was given to the community that it was gonna be done. All the primary roads were done, and then the secondary roads were supposed to be done. And they never were.
Yeah.
So I was just curious whatever happened to that.
Yeah. So, I mean, unless when the impact design came out here and surveyed the roads, they decided that wasn't needed. It was, I'm not 100% certain, but
Interesting.
Well, an asphalt rehabilitation plan, Keith, should be incorporated into this next tranche.
Yeah.
I don't know if you wanna wait till 2028, but, you know, the culverts are certainly, well, represented here, but there's no overlay or spring seal or restripe or anything in there in the years that I see, so.
I know, I looked at it as well. That's why I'm asking, where is it?
Yeah,
That's the question.
I don't know that, but I do know that on the roads, the impact did walk them all, inspected them all.
Yeah.
They didn't have those ratings, but I'm not aware of ratings plan.
Rotten tomatoes or?
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
I think that tide went out with a couple general managers ago.
Yeah, it did, huh?
It did.
Yeah, well, you remember it at least,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
good, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't like to tell something to the community and then, oh, just disappeared, never happened. And yeah, we were supposed to have the money for that and then it just went away. So, well, very good, Joel, thank you very much. Do we have any additional questions for Joel?
I have a question. Hey, Joel, I don't remember, I know it's usually on the, balance sheet, but how much do we have out in loans right now?
how much in
You
current
know, how
loans
much
it is.
money we have out in loans? So we were talking about that $4 million. I was just wondering how much.
It's about, of course, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, but we'll say around 1.4 million or so. Yeah.
Okay, and then is that the bank charges and administration of bank charges, is that the interest on those loans?
No, that's credit card fees and stuff like that, credit card processing type fees.
Okay, and so where is the interest? The interest is on your balance sheet?
So the interest on that loan will actually be in the capital section, and so it'll be like at the end of that big financial report, it'll be, you'll see like interest expense, and that's solely for that loan.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah,
That was something that you said that you were gonna do our financials that we didn't get for May yet at one of these meetings.
oh, maybe
Or what are we
about,
doing?
maybe what you're thinking about with that is that it was mentioned that the May numbers are included in this budget.
No, they had said that you were gonna do the financials, the May financials.
Maybe Rick said that.
Somebody did.
Well, the May to date is in the presentation.
That was good.
I'm gonna look through all these pages to figure out what May was, right? Because we haven't gotten that. And we're almost, come the end of this month, we're gonna be due our June financials.
No, they'll come out. It's just, all of this stuff that happened, so like during the budget season where the monthly financial report releases will get a little off kilter. But that'll all smooth right out again here soon.
So you're gonna do 2 months then, the end of August?
Well, actually, what I was actually thinking for that was just to do June, and then May would just be put online. Since at that point, May's kind of a moot point. know
Can
what I
you
mean?
put May online then?
Well, the number would go right now, meaning like,
I'm saying you should have May financials ready, yes or no?
no, well, like I said, the operating numbers are in this budget document, but that complete set of monthly financial statements for May has not been completed yet.
It's not been completed?
No, but the operating numbers itself that go into that report are in there, are in this report.
Because everything went through May.
Oh, yeah, everything's through May.
So when can you have those up and posted online?
For May itself, probably what I was gonna do was just skip ahead and do June 1st, and then I can do. So we'll say later this month,
Why would you do that, just out of curiosity?
to put May there.
Yeah, I put May after June, why wouldn't you put May before June, post it?
Well, because meaning like, so the strategy with that is like the next time financials are presented, then if I give you June numbers in August, that would be on track of what I would have done it anyways.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
So
And
you're
then-
missing May right now.
And then May would then be done, and then just put online. But in terms of like presenting that to the board, to present,
Yeah, but just put it online.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah,
May,
absolutely.
when do you put the May ones,
May
just
online, and
online,
still
not
present
present it to
June.
the board, but just put it online?
Yeah, no, they'll
When
go,
could you,
they'll go online.
when?
Well, we could send them to the board too, if you want the PDFs, can't we?
Yeah, but I mean, what I was thinking of was just timing wise, like the time would be better spent to do June, right? And then that gets presented to the board, and then May would then be done and just put online, meaning like, so the plan right now is just to go ahead, skip it, leapfrog and do June 1st, then go back and do May. I mean, what's the difference, quite frankly? I mean, because.
Month.
Well, yeah, a
No, I
month
mean-
is missing, but we're
I mean,
already have.
what I'm telling you is later on in the month, if it's like, here is June year to date, that's the most important timely thing to know. And then May itself will then go online, like after that, at that point.
Why put it on after? That's why we're saying you should have May by now.
Because I'm working on, Linda, because I'm working on all of this stuff. That takes, you know how long it takes to put this stuff together? You don't just go online and hit report, run, you have to like do all the work, that's what I'm saying. So trust me, it's not, there's not a program where I can go in here and I'll select this drop-down menu, give me the entire budget, operating and capital for 10 years. That takes work to do. And I told you this yesterday too, as well.
You know, I will say, folks, that this is the first time in 15 years that I have not had to do the budget in large scale of your complexity. This man has got a lot of financial acumen and the ability to put the stuff together. And I audited, I didn't tell you, but I audited a lot of this, and he's done a stellar job with the workload that we've got. So I will say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
I had my director of finance at Silver Lake Association, Dal Dennis, who was the CFO for McDonnell Douglas, who died of a stroke a year after I got there. Passed away in the restroom at the restaurant. We lost him. And Dal was working for a pittance. He was volunteering in essence. He was making $40,000 a year. So when we went to try to hire another CFO, and I told the board, you're gonna need to pay this person a minimum of $100,000 a year. Well, they said, well, can't you do it? You got a degree in business. So for the next year, I acted as the interim financial officer. And I tell you what, it's a workload to what
It is.
Joel just did. So thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
For my knot-hole, maybe HOAs, nonprofits are different, but, and I'm not poking at you at all, I'm not, but it's just different in business. Our financials, when we looked at our financials, we saw what, like, with August, we saw July.
Get them in
And I-
3 weeks,
and I don't- I'm not over for you, I just don't understand why, we're still looking at 2 or 3 months ago, I don't understand that frankly. Maybe it's just different in our, the way our proceeds come in, our income, but it's, for me, and I've been around this board a little bit, it's just, it's just sometimes I'm thinking, man, I'm looking at this data from like 3 months ago.
Well, it's not 3 months ago.
My business
It's
is
not 3 months
we
ago.
had it like the next month, and we have a large business too. A lot of it, at least in our business, a lot of it was automated, maybe this, you can't automate what we have here, but we knew, we didn't have them completely closed out. I mean, but we knew what things were gonna be, right? It doesn't have to be like, this is the final, but this is what we're looking at, is what we did.
And Rob, if I can offer, I managed hotels and I managed, for-profit businesses. And our goals were 3 weeks after the close of the period in for-profit. HOA accounting, especially this, is fund accounting, it's not for-profit. So it's a different concept of accounting, because you're dealing with the capital reserve fund alongside of an operating budget in a multi-layered cost and revenue center paradigm. And to me, in a for-profit business, if I didn't have, I wanted to know cost of goods in my restaurant outlets and the number of room nights sold. I wanted to know that daily. I got a DSR every day to look at it, because managers had to know that to manage their labor. But in a for-profit world, and I agree with you, 3 weeks, 4 weeks max. But here, in my last community, there was a 2-month lag.
And Joel may well feel like I'm throwing hand grenades at him, a lot of stuff I bring up is because I'm trying to learn and understand, but there's times where I look at it and go, man, we're looking at 2 months ago, or to be fair, a lot of times it's 2 months.
It's the frequency of the financial release, with the exception of just certain times of the year, this is one of them, quite frankly, where it throws things off. It's off kilter for a little bit until it slows out, but the frequency has pretty much always been the same. So in August, I'll present June, and of course, in the answer to your question, there's a tremendous amount of transactions that come through the system, that are done by Davey and Nikki and so on and so forth. Actually, I was going to, on these statements, I was gonna try to get June on here, but then I made the determination that I don't know if it's quite complete enough for the system to legitimately do it. So.
Right.
But that's what
one of the things I know about people that are in accounting is they want their the data's gotta be accurate. And I appreciate that.
certain reports, like for example, like we put out interim financial report, monthly reports, we can push those out pretty quickly, because they don't have to be like perfectly up to speed. Certain people are only interested in certain segments of the financial report, but then when it comes to the community, it's kind of like, I want all the numbers to be as complete as possible before it comes out.
Yeah.
Like, for example, one time, Rick and I remember that we were talking about, you actually brought up this question before about financial statement timing. Then I looked on the City of Bellingham website. They don't do full statements like we do, by the way. They're just like snapshots of like kind of income statements, so to speak, and they were like 2 months behind us or something, like whatever it was. They were later than it was like a couple months after us.
Yeah.
We will catch up.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thing? Anything else? All right, we'll call the meeting adjourned at 8:53 p.m. Thanks, Joel.
And we won't be meeting tomorrow night then.
And we're not meeting tomorrow night, right?
Thank you, Spencer.